I originally was born in Honduras, but I was raised in New Orleans since I was 1 year old. Down the street from where we lived, there was a Seventh-day Adventist church where we would walk to church. So our mother was a Seventh-day Adventist, but sadly to say, as we were growing up, we began to leave the church. We began to stop visiting the church. Problems came into the home. My mother remarried, and so we went many years living without God. As I started to grow, became a teenager, we eventually moved to Miami, Florida. And Miami, Florida, of course, the temptations there with the nightclubs and the partying, I became lost in that world and forgotten mostly everything about God. But God is compassionate, and God knows that sometimes we stray away. And God brought a special dream to my sister. She retold all of us her experience. Her eyes were wide open. I remember how she shared the story that she saw in a dream the second coming of Jesus. And she shared that with me with so much conviction. Frank, I had a dream. I saw the second coming of Jesus. And my sister at that point still had not surrendered her life back to God after this dream. Some more time went by and my sister had a dream. She was sleeping and she heard a voice that says, Belkis, return back to church. And she fell to her knees right there in the middle of the night and she surrendered her life to Christ. She began to pray for me. And so constantly I kept getting invited to go to her church. At that time, I started working at a new place because I was injured at my previous work. So when I started working at this new construction place, remodeling kitchens and construction, the boss of that company happened to be a Seventh-day Adventist who was an elder of the church of my sister's church. So I was being invited to church when I went to work by my boss, and I was invited to go to church by my sister. So I finally had to go visit the church, and God began to speak to me. And He was using the preacher, the messages, the sermons. I thank Pastor Manuel Fernandez as one of those ministers who preached in such a way, very Christ-centered. And as I still was lost in the world, still attending this lifestyle, one night I remember looking into the mirror saying, tonight is the night I'm gonna have the best time of my life. I remember saying that, but it happened to be the most boring night. It was just looking at everyone underneath the sound of the frenetic music, underneath the lights. I saw people as like they were missing something, and I was missing something. So that night, we were driving home. I was the designated driver. My brother was drunk. My friend was drunk. And the Spirit of the Lord was just telling me, look, this is what the world has to offer you. And this is what I'm willing to offer you. A joy that doesn't fade. While the world, you don't really get satisfied. And there I said, I surrendered my life to Jesus. And I told my friend I was never coming back, don't pick me up. And so that began the journey. And I began to study my Bible. After some years went by, I had definite evidence that God was calling me to ministry through several people at church. And I finally made the decision to study at Southern Adventist University. I graduated from there. Then I began to help some of the Spanish churches, and then I went to help out some English-speaking churches, the Rock Spring SDA Church. And then eventually I was called to minister in Cartersville, Georgia, where I am currently. So to work in ministry is the best blessing. And my greatest joy is when I see people surrender their lives and enter into the waters of baptism. That gives me my ultimate joy when I see where they were at before and God's leading in their lives. And I believe that no matter, from what I've seen, it doesn't matter how a person's condition may be. They may be far away from God. If God was able to rescue me, I know God can rescue anyone. And we have to look at people through the lenses of heaven. Every person is a candidate for heaven. So we need to preach, we need to speak, we need to share with conviction. Even though it appears it's not doing anything, we're throwing the seeds and let the Holy Spirit do the rest. Today, I think we're living in the most exciting time in history, because when we look around, we see signs that Jesus is just around the corner. He's even at the doors, as we say. And it's exciting to know that the children that are around us, just to think that those children is the generation that will see the return of Jesus Christ, is amazing. And I have that conviction. I truly believe, and I say that in my church. Today, we are seeing a generation that will see the second coming of Christ. They're not going to see death. They're going to see the second coming of Christ. They're not going to get old, right? At least that's the way that I believe. And so I'm looking forward to that day.